What's going on, guys? Nick from Shore Strength. Today we're going to talk about the differences between pain and an injury, how to identify if you're just having mild pain or discomfort, or if you're experiencing an injury, trying to figure out why this happened, and then what we can do to prevent it from happening in the future. So knowing the differences between the two not only will help you in the short term, but in the long term. When you live for years and years and years on end, you want to be able to understand what's going on in your body. Is it something you're doing, or is it something that's just happening, and then how to fix it, okay? So we're going to start with pain. A couple ways to kind of see if you're just having pain over an injury. Pain can be described as soreness or mild discomfort for 1 to 3 days. So if you have a really heavy squat session and you're doing low repetitions, you might only be sore for 1 day, okay? But if you're doing high repetitions like 20s in the squat, you might be sore for 3, 4, 5 days. So that'll depend on how you train, what your goals are, and what you're currently doing. If you were to be sore for 7, 8, 10, 12 days, that's a different story. But normally 1 to 3 days is about fair for how long you should have a little bit of discomfort and a little bit of soreness, because if you don't have those two things, you're not really doing enough, okay? The biggest question you have to ask yourself is, can you train around the pain? For an example, if you have a very tight hip flexor that gives you pain, and when you squat, it doesn't increase more pain when you're squatting, or it doesn't get any worse when you squat. That kind of be an indicator that you're just having some pain or discomfort. Now, if you were to have a tight hip flexor, and then as you get deeper and deeper in the squat, even with 135, it's unbearable, then that would fall into the category of an injury. So there's a couple reasons that you may be experiencing some pain. Improper warm-ups. So that can be that either you don't stretch or you don't foam roll, or whatever it is that you like to do and you don't do it. That will give you some pain because you're not warm enough. But also, sometimes we get a little excited and we make too big of jumps when we want to work to our working weight for our deadlift, squat, bench, overhead. A lot of times you'll see people where they do 135, 225, 315, 405, 495. And although that does get you to your working weight faster, you're skipping a lot of warming up, which is not only getting your joints moving and blood flowing, but synovial fluid and all kinds of things that are going to get you ready for what you're about to do. Poor programming, that's kind of what most people will fall under, where they're lifting too heavy too often, or that they're training too many days, and that's going to also branch into frequency versus intensity, okay? So if you're somebody who's currently squatting 4 days a week and you're having pain, you might be squatting too frequently. If you're somebody who is lifting heavy every time you go to the gym, that might cause you pain. So it's up to you to decide, maybe I need to reduce my frequency and up my intensity, or vice versa. Maybe I have to up my intensity and reduce the frequency. So that's going to depend on what your goals are, how you train already, but you're going to have to play with those things. If you're squatting 3 times a week and your knees hurt, maybe you squat 2 times a week, but you don't want to lose what you're working towards, so maybe you up the intensity so that way you can get the same amount of work done in 2 days versus 3 days. So some ways that we can fix the pain that you're having is to reduce the range of motion. What I mean by that is, if you have lower back pain when you deadlift, it's probably smart for you to pull off some elevation week 1. Week 2, we're going to reduce the elevation. Week 3, we're going to reduce it until you're pulling from the floor. Sometimes, I think 4 weeks is a good amount of time where you can start from pulling very high and reduce your weight to the floor. But sometimes that's not enough. You need to go 6 weeks, 8 weeks. If you were to give up deadlifting altogether, or if you were somebody who pulls conventional and they say, well, just pull sumo because it'll take some pressure off of your back, that's probably the worst thing that you could possibly do, because you're not training the muscles that you need. So by pulling off of elevation, you're able to handle the same amount of weight that you normally would have. So your upper back, your grip strength, and all the muscles that help you deadlift are still getting worked. You're just not pulling off of the floor. So in turn, not only are you giving your lower back a break, but you also are still working out and training just as hard. And then dynamic warm-ups. So if you have shoulder pain when you do an overhead press, it's probably smart for you to take like a medicine ball and throw it above your head for 10 or 15 reps, every minute on the minute to prime those muscles and get them warm. All right, so to move on to the injury, trying to find out is, am I injured? Is this more than just casual lifting pain? Am I injured? The first question you have to ask yourself is, does this impact my quality of life? What I mean by that is, can you not walk upstairs without your knees hurting? Can you not bend down to tie your shoes without your back being excruciating? I'm not talking about mild discomfort. I mean that you can't even bend down without extreme discomfort. So that's going to be the first question you want to ask yourself. And then second, if you cannot train around the pain, then yes, you are injured. And what I mean by that is, if your lower back hurts when you deadlift and you can't pull off of elevation, so you say, okay, I still want to leg press and leg curl, and even those things hurt your back, and then you say, well, maybe I'll just do like a body weight lunge, and that hurts your back, and you literally cannot train around the pain, then yes, you are injured, okay? So once you're injured, now it's time to reverse engineer. Why did I get injured? A lot of times, it'll be because of bad form. I know people think they have great form, but if you're truly honest with yourself and you watch videos, you should be able to right away say, ooh, I wish I would have stayed a little tighter. I wish I would have done this or that. So even world-class athletes, world's strongest man, world's best powerlifter, they're constantly working on their form. There's no reason that you shouldn't be either. Body mechanics would be a close second place for one of the most important things. You may really want to be a low bar squatter because all your powerlifting friends are. But if you have a long torso and short legs, it doesn't matter. You have to high bar squat. You could low bar squat, but your body is set up to do something completely different. So you're constantly fighting your body to get into a position that it's not optimal at. So if you have really, really short arms, you probably shouldn't sumo deadlift. Even if the sumo deadlift helps you pull more weight, you're going against what your body wants you to do, and that's never a good thing. Third, feels good versus is good. A lot of things feel good, but that doesn't mean that they are good. And what I mean by that is that when you're doing a set of 20s on the squats, on rep number 10 or 15, it feels really good to not brace your core, to not get super tight. Same thing with the deadlift. When you're doing high reps or heavy weight, it feels really good to not want to get as tight as possible. And it's more laziness, because what is good for you is to be as tight as possible. Sometimes when I'm doing a deadlift, like a double, even if it's at 60%, my face is red, my veins are popping out. I'm putting so much effort into it, and that doesn't feel good, but it is good. So you don't ever want to get caught. Really, it's just being lazy. And then intensity. So like 80% of people just lift too heavy all the time, and that's going to have a huge effect on your body over time. You can't just push your body to 100% all the time. You're going to get hurt. You're going to get injured because your body's going to be detrained, okay? So with all this being said, when you are injured, you need to find the source of your energy or your injury. So if your wrist hurts when you squat, don't just say that my wrist hurts and I can't squat. You need to find out why. Is it because my shoulders are tight? Is it because when I was 6 years old, I broke my wrist? And so you really need to find out why these things hurt. And a lot of times, because of deferred pain, your knee might hurt, but it might be because of something in your hips. Your wrist hurts. A lot of times that's your shoulder, not your wrist. So you need to find out what the source of your pain is. You can find that just by going online and researching. Usually they'll give you about 6 things that they think might be wrong. So what you do is you just attack each one of those things until the pain goes away. Prehab, so when you hurt yourself, you're fucked. The rest of your lifting career, you have to do the things that make sure that you don't get hurt again, okay? So when I was 17, I had back surgery, right? So you're never going to catch me not stretching, not warming up, and not doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I could lift optimal weights. If you broke both your ankles as a kid, or just one ankle, just breaking one ankle as a kid, a lot of times when people break one ankle, they'll be really stiff in one ankle and not stiff in the other. So when they go down into a squat, a lot of times their hips will shift out of the hole. All these little things, but it's when you hurt yourself, you have to pay attention to that. You may have tight ankles, you fix that mobility, you think you're fine. Nope, you have to do that the rest of your career. It's just something that you have to do if you want to be great. If you don't care about being great, then I don't even know why you're watching the video. And then don't stop training. So when you get injured, most of the time you can still train. If you can't squat and deadlift, you can still curl. You can still, seated overhead press. I mean, you can keep training. When you stop training altogether, you lose that drive. The whole working out thing all of a sudden doesn't seem so appealing when you can't go, because when eventually you do go back, you're weaker, you're fatter, you're not in good shape, and you're extremely unmotivated. And it's once you lose that momentum, it's very, very hard to get it back. So the number one thing would be to just don't stop training. Stay in there and work on the things that you can. So focus on the things that you can do and don't focus on the things that you cannot do. That's pretty much it, guys. Pain versus injury. I mean, a lot of times people think they're injured when really it's just pain. And then a lot of times, people say, it's nothing, and it is a big deal. So it is important to recognize the differences between the two. The number one thing I think that is the most important that you can take from this video is that you need to train around injuries and not just avoid them altogether. That's it for me, guys. Thank you. I appreciate it if you made it this far. You can follow me on Instagram at soars_strength. And if you guys like the video, comment below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.